So there's different camps.
Right, there are different camps, and so there are groups of people who would look more at kind of, the group level and interactions between people, and then other people who kind of take even more of a macro approach and kind of look at, differences between
How about economists?
Societies. So economists are going to be very interested in the incentives that entrepreneurs have, approach things from that point
I suppose
of
it
view.
could also be at the level of the individual, right? What moves me versus the level of groups of people or society.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it could be kind of the macro environment, how sort of the rules of society are set up to give people incentives to undertake entrepreneurship as opposed to other endeavors.
There are alternatives. And in your first year or 2 years, you're taking different classes that cover these different dimensions. I suppose there's a baseline. Everybody has to take Common Core, and then there's variation.
Right. There are a few required courses, and kind of individuals differ in how much they will kind of sample across economics and sociology. Versus, I kind of knew coming in that I really wanted to take more of the economic perspective.
Oh,
and so,
really? Okay.
So the majority of my coursework during the first year has sort of been right alongside the econ PhD students and taking.
Okay.
Their
And those
classes.
are, I mean, at MIT, anyways, is a totally different school of people.
Right.
I mean, they're in different department, different school of, but you're taking classes with them. Now, that sounds like background and learning about methods being, how you'd analyze the data, what kind of questions you'd ask, how you would ask the question.
Right.
Is that
Statistical
fair?
techniques.
Mathematical techniques, analytic techniques.
Right.
When you get through all that, what are the kind of questions you personally are interested in asking? I mean, what's come up so far? I mean, you're in this for the long haul, right? You got several more years ahead of you in terms of the questions asked. But what's emerged so far?
Right. So what's emerged so far, at least what I've been working on recently, has been a lot on serial entrepreneurs.
Serial entrepreneurs.
Right.
Repeat. So people who start multiple companies in a row.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Or multiple companies simultaneously.
Really? Isn't that parallel entrepreneurship?
That is.
Serial. Okay, all right.
So yeah.
How many of those are there? It's slightly nuts to start one company at a time. Never mind multiple companies. Is a parallel entrepreneur more really a venture capitalist who has a portfolio, or is a parallel entrepreneur sort of a true Renaissance person?
Right. Well, I mean, the fact is we don't really know too much about them yet.
I see.
So we
know of them, but we don't know anything about them as a pool of people.
Right. Except that, there are some initial results that there may be kind of this alternate strategy that an entrepreneur could undertake, and sort of exploring a couple of different ideas simultaneously and seeing which ones pan out more, and then diverting attention into the one that looks most promising.
So that's interesting. It's almost like that could be a potential explanation for how an entrepreneur hones in on an idea. That in fact what's going on is they're incubating multiple simultaneous companies, and then only when things start to, it's like having multiple irons in the fire, or pots in the stove, right? Back burner, front burner. Ultimately you end up concentrating though on something, I imagine. Is that a true statement, or do you find people saying, well, I'm co-founding 2 companies at once?
Well, I think that probably the more successful entrepreneurs wind up focusing. And in fact, this is what some of the preliminary results show, is that if you're someone who's started a prior company within kind of the same industry, then that focus is going to lead you to perform better in the next venture if it's also in that same industry.
So all else equal, you've learned something, you know something about the industry, you've cut your teeth on sort of entrepreneurial basics, so you're more likely to be successful to do the second thing within the same broad sector.
Yeah.
You're not doing the same thing, you're doing a similar thing or a related thing.
Right. So that's one of the topics that has come up and
that's
is
good.
of,
Do
is
you have
of interest to me.
other big items on your topic list? So serial entrepreneurs is certainly one. What are any other big items?
The other big item would be how kind of these science-based entrepreneurial ventures get financed.
Finance.
Right.
As in how these sort of relatively non-business-like people engage with the money people? I mean, they're totally different worlds. It seems.
Right. There's certainly a number of questions that are left to be unanswered. I mean, certainly people who are doing science-based entrepreneurship are less likely, perhaps, to have contacts within the business world and investors and kind of know how that world works and how to approach those people.
Yeah.
But there's also the question of who you approach. I mean, there are a number of different financing avenues, whether they be venture capital firms, whether they be angel investors, whether they be groups of angel investors, and finding the right one with the right kind of knowledge for a given venture is an interesting question.
So you're looking at the scientific entrepreneur as well as the serial entrepreneur. Any third or fourth domains, or are those really your two foci for now?
Those are the two foci for now.
Okay.
Classwork is keeping me busy enough.
all right. Okay, but it sounds like you're onto a promising area. And now, just to clarify for people, when you say you're interested in these two, how do you actually go about looking at real data? I mean, going beyond sort of storytelling, anecdotes. What data are you looking at?
All right, so the data that we have is a survey of MIT alumni entrepreneurs, and it's essentially a follow-up survey to one that you yourself were involved with. So this is a 2003 survey, essentially, where we have responses from over 2,000 different entrepreneurs where they tell us a great deal of information about one particular company and then some other information about their entire founding history and all of the other ventures that they've started previously.
So you got some, maybe 1,000 or so, 2,000 different, you got lots of detail about these people and and at least one entrepreneur. What fraction of them are serial entrepreneurs?
So about 25 to maybe 40% of them are serial entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's a huge number. Yeah. Well, we're running out of time here on the show, so we can't plumb that particular vein more thoroughly. But Chuck, I hope you'll join me again on the show at some point in the future when you've got more results to share with us.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
I'm really delighted that you're joined us here in the greater Cambridge community and studying this important phenomenon of entrepreneurship. Everybody, till next time, this has been High Tech Fever. I'm your host, Joost Bonsen. Stay entrepreneurial.